Hi, and welcome to my cottage kitchen. And I've got so many secrets to share with you. So there's going to be a number of recipes, each one with at least one secret tip, just to make baking more fun and get rid of some of the mystery around it. Honestly, baking is great. Now then, I am preparing for a bake sale this weekend. Yum, 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 yum. I'm going to be selling my beautiful cakes. So I've got a number of recipes that I've got listed down, all kinds of yummy scrumptiousness to keep you warm and keep your sugar levels up. So without further ado, let's bake.
All right.
I promised you one of my bakes, and today I'm going to do what I call a combo bake, or known in the trade sometimes as a Franken bake. Why? Because we join two ideas together to create a new idea. Well, as far as I know, it's a new idea. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to make sticky toffee pudding muffins, but the center of them is going to have a very gooey thing called Dulce de Leche, which is this absolutely delicious caramel that comes in a can. Now, you could make this yourself, but it takes about 2-3 hours. So I thought just for today, I'd just buy it ready-made. And essentially it's milk and sugar that is boiled and boiled and boiled, and eventually it turns into this caramel. So this is my version of the Dulce de Leche sticky toffee pudding muffins. So the first thing you need to know is what goes in it. So I'm going to show you all the various ingredients, but you'll be able to check them out in the list below. Remember, look below for information, and also remember to subscribe. Thank you. So what have you got, Jill? This is what I've got. First of all, we need 4 eggs. We need 3 whole eggs and 1 yolk. The white of that egg is separated, and you're going to say, why? Well, I'll show you why later. Then you're going to need at least 115 grams of light brown sugar. The reason you use light brown sugar is that it has a kind of more of a caramelly flavour. You could actually use dark brown muscovado, but I quite like the light brown. You need 115 grams of butter or margarine if you prefer. What else have we got? Ah, yes, the zest of a fresh orange. It's a little twist there. Look out for twists. You're going to need self-raising flour. Now, in America, I know you have something called cake flour and all-purpose flour. I would imagine all-purpose flour would do, and then you can just add the appropriate amount of baking powder, etc., etc. But over here in England, we have something called self-raising flour. So that is self-raising flour, and you're going to need, because I haven't memorized the numbers here, at least, and I say this, 170 grams. The reason why I say at least is because later on, when you see the consistency, you may want to add a little more flour. And that's something that intuition and your great eyes will dictate. Okay, where have we got to? Oh yes, then we have, just to help the mixture rise a little bit, we have got here baking powder and, half a teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Don't panic. Most cakes have a bit of salt in them just to elevate the flavour, and I use the pink Himalayan salt because it's a little bit mellower, but you can use whatever you want. And then finally, here I've got 1 teaspoon of nutmeg and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now, again, you might want more, you might want less, but this is really, it's more of a guideline than anything. And then finally, we have one of the most important things for this recipe, which is dates. Now, it depends what dates you buy. You'll probably buy the dried ones, and some of them are bigger than others, some of them are sweeter than others. I think it's more a case of your personal taste. But what you do is you take, well, I took about 12 ounces, which if you convert that into grams, it's about 320 grams, give or take, of dates. And here's one of my secrets. You're going to love this. I take the dates, make sure the stones are removed, and then I soak them in tea. Oh yeah, basically you take a bowl, you put your dates in, get some tea bags, hot water, and leave it overnight. You really want to let this stuff soak in. And then the next day, put all of that into a saucepan and just gently cook it down so that the dates are really soft and sticky and syrupy, and then you have a little bit of the date juice then left over, which is what makes it a sticky toffee pudding. Right, that's all the ingredients. Now it's time to actually make the cakes.
All right.
Right then, are we ready to cook? Let's do it. Now, the first thing you have to do, and there's a very good reason for this, and you'll discover it later as well as now, is that you're going to whisk up that one egg white. And the reason why I separated it out is because when we fold it into the mixture later, it's going to really make it light and fluffy. And the reason I do this first is because in order to make your whipped meringue mix or your whipped egg, is that you can't have any grease on the blades of your mixer because it just won't fluff up. So I do it first, and then after that it's not a problem, and it saves a bit of washing up. So I've popped it into a bit of a jug, but whatever you've got, bit of noise now. After all that noise, we now have a whipped egg white, which if you were to add sugar in, of course, you could make it into a meringue, but we're not going to do that. And look, I'll show you that it doesn't come out over my hand. Lovely. So the next thing I'm going to do is what I call tempering the rest of the eggs. Now, you could, if you wanted to, just add your eggs in whole into your mix, but then I find it sort of takes a bit longer to make it all meld. So what I do is I quickly whip them up. Let's do that. There we go. So that's the rest of your eggs all nicely whipped up. So we are ready to do some more. Now, in my pudding bowl, I have placed the butter and the sugar, and we're going to cream those together. And the really important part about the creaming is that you want to make it as light as you can. So it takes a little while, but you just be patient. It will come together and it makes the whole consistency so much lighter. Let's get on with that. Start slow, otherwise it goes everywhere. It also helps if your butter is room temperature soft to begin with. Mine is straight out of the fridge. Now you can, of course, use a stand mixer if you want, but I actually really like using a hand mixer because I've got a little bit more control, and it does mean that when you're scraping things down, it's not so mucky. So it's now starting to get a bit softer and combined, so I'm just going to do a bit. Okay, so that's been about a couple of minutes in total of mixing the butter and the sugar. And you should find that it's nice and spreadable, it's light in colour. Of course, you can mix it even more if you want, but for me right now, that is a very good consistency. So the next thing we're going to do is add the mixed eggs, not the white of the egg, the mixed eggs. Now, they say you should do this slowly. I've tried slow, I've tried quick, I've tried in between, doesn't seem to make any difference. Now you might worry during the process that it splits a little bit. That's okay, because when you chuck the flour in, it all comes together anyway. So let's start adding the eggs. And put your beaters on a little bit slow, otherwise it'll just go all over you and you'll be covered in egg. Sur le visage, as they say. So bit by bit, you just keep adding it in. And it looks like the consistency of a sort of runny coffee ice cream. I'm going to put the rest of the eggs in. And I'm just going to scrape the sides because there will be some that hasn't quite combined into the mix. And then give it another quick whiz. You can do this online now. Great. I'm really happy with that. As I said, it looks like double cream or ice cream or something like that, but I'm very happy with it. So I'm just going to clear this out of the way. And let's get to the next step. Okay, so now you can see that we have this lovely mixture, which is the butter and the sugar and the 3 whole eggs and 1 egg yolk all nicely together. Now the next thing I'm going to do, because there's several stages to this, is I'm going to start adding some of the other ingredients before I add the flour at the end. And here's the way round that I do it. First of all, I'm going to take the zest of the orange, which absolutely just smells so good. It sort of reminds me of Christmas a little bit. So that goes in. Just sort of stir it in gently. There we go, that's one. Then I'm going to take my spices. Remember we had nutmeg and cinnamon, but you can use whatever you want. You could even add a bit of powdered ginger if you want to. That's really nice. And just give that a little bit of a whiz with your spatula. This is why I say it's kind of sometimes easier not to use a stand mixer, although obviously some people prefer that. That's okay. But I like to see the alchemy. Right, so it's starting to change colour now. The next exciting instalment is going to be our beautiful tea-soaked dates, which were cooked down and are really soft and syrupy. And I'm now going to just plonk all of that in. Funny old noise that really, isn't it? Anyway, there we go. Isn't that lovely? Do you like the little pot? I bought that in, where did I buy that? I think I bought it in Florence. Lovely. Right, get rid of that pot. And again, hopefully you've remembered to remove the stones or the pits out of the dates, because the last thing you want to do is break your tooth on one. So there we go. That's very gently combined. It's actually starting to smell an awful lot like Christmas now. Fantastical. Now, I am going to, before I add the flour, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a mix just to break the dates down a little bit more. Now this is one of my secrets, and I'll explain why. If you were to food process the dates, you'll end up with a paste, which really isn't what you're after. You want a bit more texture. So that is why I put them in whole and then just really give it a little quick mix. And that then helps it to retain some bits and some texture. But again, it's entirely up to you. Fantastic, we're nearly there. The next thing I'm going to do is add my flour, and I'm just putting in the flour, the baking powder and the salt. Just get those mixed through. Got a frog in my throat there. There we go, you can do it with your fingers or anything. And I'm going to be ever such a good girl, and I'm going to sieve that in. Just to make sure we've got no lumps and bumps, because there's actually nothing worse than a lump of baking powder in your mouth. So just a quick sift again adds to the lightness of the puddings. There we go. Just help it along. There we go. Excellent. We're nearly there now. Now, if you overmix your cake mix once you put the flour in, all you're going to do is create a very tough mixture, because the more that you work the flour, the higher you get the gluten, which is what you want when you make bread, but not when you make cake. So I'm going to very gently, to begin with, just stir it. I'm not actually even using the electric beater on. I'm basically just using it in static motion, just gently bringing it all together. Okay, there we go. As you can see, that's almost done the job. So now I'm just going to give it a very light whisk. It's on the lowest speed. and that has brought it all together. Just in case there's some on the sides, give it a little scrape down. Just combine it, reach into the bottom, and that's it. I'm happy, that's all combined. There's only one thing left to do before we put it into the cake tins, and that is now to add the whipped up egg white. Now, this is my little secret, which I'm sharing with you, and you're very welcome to use it in whatever kind of situation you are when you're a baker, frankly, because for me, it works to lighten cakes. It's fantastic. I'm now going to, bit by bit, put that into our cake, and I'm going to fold it in. So there's one blob, and you're basically trying to retain the air bubbles in the meringue mix. So it's a cutting and folding exercise. I'm sure you've come across that before. Cut and fold, cut and fold. And I'm going to put the rest of it in because it's not a huge amount. It's literally one egg white, no sugar. There we go. And again, just cut and fold, cut and fold, cut, fold, cut and fold, cut and fold. Yes, we cut and fold. We make cakes and we cut and fold. Oh, sorry about that. Just a little song to help me along my way. And as you can see, most of the white is almost completely incorporated. You really don't want to see any flecks if you can possibly help it. Cut, cut and fold. And it just helps the rest of the mixture combine. And that's why you don't need to overbeat the flour, because frankly, you're going to be doing extra mixing anyway. And that, my friends, is your ready cake mix. Now, I did mention earlier that you might want to add a little bit of extra flour at this point, dependent on how runny the mixture is, because there are so many things that can affect it. The amount of syrup that you have in your dates, the temperature of the room, the type of flour you're using. So I would say that at this point, drop in consistency. Drop. For me, that's perfect. You don't really want it any drier because this is a very moist cake batter. So the next thing we've got to do is even more exciting. We are now going to fill the muffin cases. Right, this is where it gets fun and exciting. We are now going to put the sticky toffee Dulce de Leche puddings into their little cases. Now, you are going to need, if you have them, these kind of ice cream scoops so that you can get identical portions. But listen, you don't have to be perfect. This is just for demonstration purposes. Probably I would just use a normal spoon and just dollop it in. But today, I'm going to be a good girl. I also have a cup of very hot water, because when we take the caramel out of the can, it's going to make such a sticky mess. Isn't that gorgeous? I don't know how I'll stop myself eating that. So what I've got is I've got a little teaspoon, which I'm going to put in hot water, and then every time I've taken some caramel out, dip the teaspoon. So here we go. This is the fun part. Now I've got a muffin tray, which is deeper than a fairy cake or Yorkshire pudding tin. And I've just popped some pretty ordinary muffin paper cups in there. I couldn't find any pretty ones. I don't know what happened there. Didn't look hard enough probably. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to portion some of the mixture into each cup with my happy little scoop. That actually is too much. I'm going to use a smaller one. That's much too much. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. So this is slightly smaller. Anyway, this is all part of the fun, really, isn't it? Making mistakes on camera. So there we go. So there we have one portion in there. Now, you've got loads of mixture there to do some more. So just make as many as you want. I mean, this recipe probably, well, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We've got 12 in this tin, and I reckon you'd probably get at least another 6, because we're actually going to add something more on top. So this is, as I promised, the fun part. We're going to take some of the Dulce de Leche, or Dulce de Leche, however you pronounce it, and just put a blob in the middle. How easy is that? Gosh, that one's a little bit over full, but that's okay. And actually it's coming out quite easily. But if your spoon does get a bit sticky and claggy, as I said, just drop it into some hot water. Now, I don't know if I'm putting too much in really. I think it's all about what you like. So I'm going to put a few which have slightly less in, because they might all spill over in the heat of the oven, mightn't they? But we obviously want to have a bit of a soft centre too. So there we go, nearly there. A bit more in that one. I mean, it's all about what you like. You know, you don't, the whole thing about baking for me is this. It's very simple. Bake what you like and make it taste the way you like it. You know, there are rules to a degree, but at the end of the day, use your intuition and your taste buds and just play with things. That's what I've done all my life as a baker, and I'm not about to change now. A bit more on that one. Okay, so that's step 2. Are you still with me? I think you are. Now, I'm going to take a slightly smaller scoop because I want to be able to control the next step a little bit more. Because what we're going to do now is scoop some on the top, like that. Okay, well, there's a little bit of mixture left, and I probably overestimated how much was left. Probably you could get another couple out of that. So yeah, it makes about 14 or 15 cupcakes. That's it, folks. These are now going to go in the oven. Now, as you can see, there's one here which hasn't got a cover on. I just thought I'd see what would happen if it didn't have a cover on. If there's anything you want to just move so you can just cover the toffee, caramel, just move it like that. But that's essentially the recipe. I'm now going to put this in an oven which has been preheated, 180 degrees centigrade, which is about a gas mark 4. Now, it's going to take roughly 12 minutes. And what I'll do is I'll set the timer for 12 minutes, take a quick look, check it, and then if it needs a little longer, it will. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present sticky toffee Dulce de Leche muffins going into the oven. Right, the cakes have come out of the oven. Wow. The smell is divine. Now, they did take a little bit longer than I expected. It was about 16 minutes, give or take a few seconds. But it's something that you, as I said, you just need to really keep an eye on for a few moments. And the best way to check really, because they will have a soft centre, is just to put a cocktail stick just down the side of one of the cupcakes, and if that comes out clean, you're going to be pretty much sure that they're cooked through. Now, the one that was rather big and didn't have a blob of mixture on it was this one, and it looks rather nice. Looks like a volcano. So what I'm going to do is show you what it looks like inside, because it's absolutely gorgeous. I cut one in half while it was still warm. And there it is, lovely dulce de leche, hot dulce de leche in the centre of a beautifully light sticky toffee pudding sponge mix. And I shall be having this one now, probably with a drop of custard. I don't have any ice cream or cream, but custard definitely, and a nice cup of tea. Yum! So that's it really for this one. Sticky toffee pudding muffins with a lovely dulce de leche centre. Give it a try. I will put, as I said before, the recipe down below. Please remember to subscribe and like. And if you do try this recipe, let me know. There will be more. I've got so many kitchen secrets. Kitty secrets? No, kitchen secrets. Put my teeth in, to show you. And if you missed out where the secrets were because you weren't paying attention, there will be a link below saying, this is the secret. Something like that anyway. Look, this is it for now. This is Jill from Cottage Kitchen Secrets saying happy baking and happy eating.